Speaking freedom, giving you the answers to be free. Be free.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Welcome to the Speaking Freedom TV show, Journey to Freedom. Today we have a new guest. This is Julia. Hey, Julia, how you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself to start the interview?
Yeah, sure. My name is Julia. I am a survivor from anorexia, orthorexia, and exercise addiction. And I have traveled through a very long journey and come out the other side feeling incredible. Kind of started really, really young. I started noticing that I wasn't happy with myself, I guess, when I was about 4.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little girl that lived down our road that I used to play with who was also called Julia. And everyone called her Little Julia and me Big Julia.
Mm.
And I didn't like it. And I always wanted to be Little Julia. And looking back at pictures, I wasn't big. I wasn't overweight. I was just a standard little girl. But in my head, my child brain thought that I was unacceptable because I was Big Julia. And it kind of went on through my childhood. My family loved me. They were doing the best they could, but they were very traditional in that anything like emotions were not to be expressed. And money was not to be spoken about, and children should be seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of grew up believing that I shouldn't be seen or heard and that I should stay as small as possible. By the time I was about 12, I developed fully into anorexia, possibly to try and remain a child and not cope with the puberty and becoming a grown-up. And I got very, very thin, very sick, kind of wore like millions of layers of clothes to hide it from my parents. Got found out. Didn't go down well. Was kind of forced to recover physically,
Mm-hmm.
and just got better at hiding it, really. And that continued through my teenage years, till I met my husband, who I've been married to for nearly 30 years now. And things were settled for a while. They were okay. I moved out of home. I felt a bit freer. I got married. I had children, 3 boys, and they then there's the whole diet culture, the whole you've got to get back to your pre-pregnancy weight.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I was thinking back, it was my youngest son's 21st birthday last week.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had him at 9:20 in the morning, and I was home by 11:30. And I took the dogs out for a walk straight away. I cleaned the house. I did the school run for the other 2. I went for a run in the evening, and I was back in my jeans in less than a week. And everyone was like, "Oh, you're amazing, you're incredible." But actually, I was really disordered, and that was a really bad thing. I gave my body no rest. I didn't look after myself. I hated myself. I had friends, but when I was out with them, I never spoke because I never thought anything I had to say was of worth, that nobody would listen because it wasn't worth it. So I just was the quiet friend. And I just did everything I thought people wanted me to do all the time, pleasing people all the time, just trying to seek approval because I gave no approval to myself. The restricting eating turned into clean eating and orthorexia, and everything had to be made from scratch and organic. And I cooked for hours and hours every day.
So let me ask you a question. Can you explain the difference between anorexia and what did you call orthorexia?
Orthorexia is well, anorexia is a restrictive eating disorder where you really, really restrict what you eat. Pretty much all food. Some foods are much scarier than others, like carbohydrates and fats and things. Orthorexia is kind of more fitness based. It's based on clean eating. You don't have any processed food. Everything has to be completely organic. No refined sugars, no grains.
I mean, when you say this, it sounds like what most women are doing today, especially like here in Atlanta, where your fitness and your body is such a thing. It's like if they are not basically kind of starving themselves, then they're going to get body work, and then they get an overzealousness about being in the gym. And although I think being healthy is good, there is some like
it
if that
takes
is
over
your
your
whole
life.
life, yeah, I think that like anything excessive, whether it's church, whether it's work, whether it's alcohol or drugs, can all be debilitating in a sense.
Absolutely. It completely takes over your life. I was exercising for hours and hours every single day, only eating carbohydrate free, clean food, fasting. I was only eating one meal a day. And then every sort of 10 days, I would do a several day fast where I didn't have anything at all. And it does completely take over your life. I couldn't think about anything else at all. And I was just on the go all the time, busy, 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 but never ever happy. And one thing I don't know if you know that when you restrict your food, it numbs all your emotions and you don't get to feel properly. And so that was great for me because I hadn't ever learned how to process emotion in a way. But what it did was just numb everything and bury everything. And one day that all comes out, doesn't it?
Right. I mean, when you're just talking about it, I can think of so many people that have such restrictive diets, and it's just so, and bird's eye view, you think that them having these restrictive diets and exercising all the time are all healthy attributes. But the way that you're describing it is like, wait a minute. Well, I know a lot of people that are a little bit emotionally numb, and it may be because they're not eating like regular.
Yeah, absolutely. And also you get within the fitness industry and the diet industry, you get so much validation for these disordered behaviors. Everyone's like, oh, you're incredible. You're superwoman. I don't know how you do it all. And you just get so much praise and validation for being so disordered. And yeah, you don't feel your emotions, not even the happy ones, really. You kind of live, you don't even really live, you just exist. There's no joy in life. You know, it's just there. You're just going through the motions every day.
But it's so crazy. Not crazy. Let me use a better term. It is so baffling because literally in the fitness industry, which is very big right now, and the body shaming is very big. Like I've never seen it before. And when I'm just thinking about the people that I know that are consistently in the gym, and it comes off literally, like I said before, it comes off as, oh my God, they are so healthy and they're just, like you said, and it's a validation that can probably cause further damage.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. If you're constantly told that this is something you're good at and you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe you have any self-worth, if other people are saying you're amazing at this, then you're just going to push it further and further and further. And eventually it all crumbles. I was freezing cold all the time. I was tired all the time, but still felt like I had to keep going all the time. No enjoyment in anything. Started to just feel that I was losing my mind a bit. I was forgetting things and couldn't really just think clearly about anything.
Did you use all the supplements, like the things that keep your energy going and all of those?
Yeah, the pre-workout and the amino
And
energy.
then the post workout and the middle of the
Yeah,
workout. Yeah, yeah.
yep. But always making sure that the protein shakes had no sugars in, no carbs in, or anything like that, just to make sure that they were all like really, really healthy and didn't have bread, didn't have anything with carbs in. You'd have like, oh, just all these fake foods as well, even though you didn't eat processed food, just because they were gym foods and they were classed as being the healthy ones, which actually taste horrendous. They're not
They be
nice.
lying. They be trying to act like it's everything is just so delicious.
No, they're not. Not when you eat real food. They're not good.
So
So
how did your eating disorders affect your marriage and your children as like once you start getting older?
um initially, I guess they thought always thought I was quite stressy. My children's friends thought I was a bit scary. Because everything had to be perfect all the time. I was just constantly, the house had to be perfect. Everyone had to look perfect. The washing all had to be done. Nothing could be left out of place. So I think they just thought I was quite an edgy, stressy person. And then everything started to unravel shortly after my father died, about 18 months ago. And all the emotions from my childhood that I'd buried started to resurface. And I had no clue whatsoever how to cope with them. So I did what I'd always done, and I completely stopped eating, because that was the only way I knew how to cope with anything. But like, totally stopped, didn't have anything. And I got very, very sick very, very quickly.
How long were you not eating?
I think I went for 2 full weeks with nothing at all. And then I would have like a yogurt every 2 or 3 days, just to keep me going ish. My brain function became totally irrational. I couldn't think clearly at all. I was going for a run when I woke up, and then going and doing a CrossFit session, and then walking a minimum of 30,000 steps a day. My poor dogs were exhausted.
I bet.
The older one was like, no more walks.
They just start running from you when they see the leash on.
I was lying to my family all the time about, oh yeah, I went out with a friend and we had afternoon tea and stuff, and just making up why I wasn't eating with them. And again, wearing baggier and baggier clothes. But it got to a point where that mask that you put on, that you pretend that everything is okay, I didn't have the strength or the energy left to do it. And I just wanted to end it all. I couldn't cope anymore. And it was just, yeah, I'm very, very allergic to gin. Like, if I drink gin, I die. I've only ever had one sip, and I ended up in a hospital very quickly. So I bought a bottle of gin, prepared to just end everything, because I couldn't cope, didn't know what to do. The restricting wasn't working anymore, couldn't think. And I was all planned, and just something in my head was just like, you can't do this to your children. You can't give them that memory.
I'm so glad that you're here and you're talking to me today.
So am I. Life is incredible. It really is. When you eat, when you're nourished, and when you learn that you are actually worth it, and that what you have to say has value, and that you can turn your pain into your purpose and help other people who were in a similar situation, it's the most rewarding, fulfilling thing I've ever done. And so, yeah, I reached out. I got a recovery coach. I stopped working. I'd already been kicked out of the gym because I kept passing out and they didn't like it.
Wait, you were in a what you mean passing out in the gym? Like going to work out?
Yeah. And then passing out because I didn't have any food in me.
Right.
So yeah, my gym coach banned me from going because he said it wasn't safe, which I was really angry about, but he was right. It wasn't safe.
For anybody, the gym, people around?
No, not safe for anybody. So yeah, I literally stopped everything in my life. I didn't have the strength to carry on working or do anything, and went completely all in, followed everything my recovery coach told me to do, literally to the letter. And wow, so worth it. So worth it.
So what was the initial stages for, okay, let's back it up. When you were in high school, and you were going through your initial stages of eating disorder, like where was your mindset at? Like how did you, like what pushed you to that extreme? Was it still being called Big Julia at that point? Or what, or had you adapted the mindset of being unhappy with yourself to the point to where it just was a part of who you were?
I think it was just a part of who I was. I think I'd learned that it was the way to cope with not dealing with emotions.
Mm-hmm.
It was the way to just, if you didn't eat, you didn't feel the emotions. And so I didn't have to deal with it. I
Right.
guess I was hiding from life. I'd never learned how to do it. So
So it was like the opposite of people who eat because they're depressed. So instead of the eating and compulsive eating, you would just starve yourself.
absolutely. Yeah.
So like when you think about that now, like what do you think about those times? Like how do you give yourself the ability to embrace those years and learn lessons from that experience? Because it sounds like a lifelong battle with taking care of yourself in the way that you really need. And so how when you look back at that, how do you find the lessons in those years that help you give you strength today?
Okay. A really good question. I've done a lot of inner child work with my recovery coach, and initially I had a lot of anger, particularly to my father. But really, when I question, did he do wrong? Is it true? He he did the best he knew how to do, and maybe that wasn't the best thing for me, but that wasn't really his fault. So I've sort of I've forgiven him because he did do the best he could do.
Basically, he knew how to. And a lot
Yeah.
of times I have two parents that were very neglectful. My dad passed away in 2017, but before he died, we had, reconciled and we were pretty cool. Um my mom is still alive and I manage with her now, but it is a lot to process. The way that they were raised is the reason why you are raised the way you are, whether they cling
Absolutely.
to what they saw or whether they decide I want to be better than what I experienced. And at that in that era of adult and adulting, they didn't know how to decide to be different. They only
No,
knew to do what they were shown.
absolutely, yes. And I mean, if I look at my grandmother on my father's side, well, she was actually frankly terrifying. So it's no wonder that he was a man that didn't deal with emotion, didn't
Hmm.
express it himself, and didn't allow me to express it. He was also brought up to believe that girls were pretty pointless.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's what he expressed to me. And my brother was the golden child.
And that's either because of the way his mom treated him or what he saw her do. Like the lifestyle that she lived was either the example or the treatment that she put him through. You know what I mean? Like how she communicated with him as a son could have been harsh, but
Yeah,
if depending on what he saw, like how she dealt with men, how she dealt with her friends and family, all of those things affect the psyche of a child too.
absolutely. So yeah, I hold no anger to him
Hmm.
anymore at all. And I have forgiven myself
Hmm.
for how I reacted because it was just my conditioning and I didn't know any better. I've forgiven myself for all the lies I told. about why I wasn't eating,
Mm-hmm.
because I was just a scared child. And I suppose I've gone back and I've held my young self in my arms, in my imagination,
Mm-hmm.
and just told her what she needed to hear back then, which is that I love her. And I guess that's how I've processed all the childhood stuff now. But in reality, now, apart from letting her know that I love her, I wouldn't change anything because of everything I went through made me who I am now. And I like who I am now because I
And
can help other people.
I always tell people, if you change even the slightest little thing, I mean, just one little thing, you would change your whole entire life. And if you are where you desire to be, if you've done some healing work, if you've done some, just self-acceptance, then you might not want to change anything because you wouldn't have had the lessons that you needed to learn to become who you are today. Now, this is my disclaimer for that because yes, your parents could have been better. They could have nourished you into the person that you are today. But for whatever reason, the journey was meant for you to be who you are right now. And let's have even this conversation is
Yes.
a part of God's plan for your and my life. So again, I am just so thrilled to have you here. But the story and your journey to freedom is so important because it's a lot of people out here that's struggling with body dysmorphia and so many visual and physical things that they don't
Yeah.
accept about themselves. And it's really because you get all these people that's going to get these cosmetic surgeries. And now that they're cheaper, everybody wants them, but they're not safe. They're not always the best thing. But people need to know that they might have a disorder if they are excessively doing these things and starving
Yes.
themselves.
And diet culture and the beauty industry give us these ideals that literally 95% of the population cannot reach.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you and we hope that we're able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening.
it's all a big con. It's just to get money out of everybody. And people can't reach these ideals and it makes them feel terrible. And so the pain that everybody feels about their body image and stuff, and that actually makes a lot of people feel very isolated and very alone and like they're not good enough. It's not actually just their pain, is it? It's like the world's pain that's been
Mm-hmm.
induced by diet culture and the beauty industry. And if people could like just step back and realize that they're sharing this pain with the whole world, and
Mm-hmm.
that means it's fundamentally wrong if the world is in pain because of some conditioning and societal standards.
Unrealistic goals of the
Yeah,
body because even there are people that work out every day and they don't like their body mechanics is not made for being slim and
absolutely.
trim and all of those things. And then there are people that actually go get different those lap band surgeries and different surgeries and they end up being sick because
Yeah,
they've opted to do something that is not good for their DNA, not just their body and their bones, but their actual genetics is
yeah,
made to handle a certain body type.
yeah, absolutely. And our bodies are so clever. They know, our bodies know exactly what we need and how we should be. And if we trusted in them, I mean, when your body tells you you need a wee, you go for a wee, right?
Right.
So we trust our bodies with that. Why can't we trust our bodies to tell us when we're hungry and when we're full? Why do we actually have to listen to some invisible person that just wants our money?
Right.
Our
Because
bodies know
it
what to
is
do.
definitely funding. I mean, now working out is not bad. Let's preface that.
Oh,
Working out is
absolutely.
not bad,
Not
but when
bad at
you're
all.
excessively denying yourself the ability to be human, to have desires, to fulfill those desires,
Yeah.
to do things outside of working out and being in the gym, that's when it's a problem. Again, no
Yeah.
different than somebody that goes to church every single day, but you really don't see no results of them going to church. It is an addiction to a feeling and not to the results.
100%. If you are working out because you love moving your body and it makes you feel good and you enjoy it, that's absolutely brilliant, and go for it. If you're working out because you think you have to do it because you need to keep your muscles toned, you need to try and be as slim as possible, you need to be strong, just to fit in because it's a societal ideal and you don't feel like you're acceptable any other way, that's a problem. That's not good.
I definitely agree. So now that you have been in recovery, I take it, how long have you been out of recovery? I mean, it's an ongoing
Um,
process, but
yeah, it's an ongoing process completely. I actually only started recovery in September last
okay.
year, 2022. When I started, I had no hunger signals. I was incredibly underweight, um, and just terrified of everything. And now, I suppose, what are we, 6 months later? 5, 6 months, 6 months,
Mhm.
7 months. I am not scared of food anymore. I've learnt to love who I am and know that I have worth and that I'm good enough. And to be able to share what I've been through and hope to help other women or other people who are going through a similar thing. I don't think recovery is ever over because we can always grow,
Mhm.
we can always improve, and everything we do that's uncomfortable is a chance to grow.
How has it affected your family now that you are back to your normal self? Like to the
um,
authentic version of you?
yeah, it's quite different for them. So I don't try and please them all the time now. I do things that make me happy. Um, and, I think they love it. They're quite happy. I never asked for help before, you see. I always just did everything myself.
Mhm.
And now I ask for help. And actually, people really want to help. And that's really nice. And my relationship with my husband is just the best it's ever been. Um,
Do you still have to
and
have everything in the house straight and like in place?
no, not at all.
Listen,
It's generally tidy, but it doesn't worry me if something's left out and things now.
you and that gives me so much validation because I mean my house is not a mess, but it's not like we live in our house. Like it is a lived-in house. It's not like, nobody lives here when we leave. No. Somebody lives here clearly, and you're going to know because things are not in the right place.
Yeah,
But to hear that that was a part of your need for perfection and your need to
yes. It's
for
like a need for control.
and even self-acceptance because you feel like if my house doesn't look a certain way, then something must be wrong with me. And because
Yeah,
that is what we are literally programmed to believe that.
yeah. But it doesn't, you don't have to be, nobody is perfect. It's impossible. So when we strive for perfection all the time, we will constantly
Mhm.
fail because you cannot be perfect. And being perfectly imperfect is much better anyway.
Right. So what do you do for work now? Are you just speaking about your overcoming your sickness?
Um, I am a recovery coach
Hmm.
myself now, so I do one-to-one coaching over Zoom and 24/7 WhatsApp support,
Hmm.
helping people get over their own eating disorders and learn to love themselves. Because really, that's what it all boils down to: is learning how to love yourself and accept yourself and quieten your inner bitch and stop her
Right.
telling you you're not good enough the whole time, because that inner bitch, you wouldn't speak to a friend like you speak to yourself.
I
And
mean, well, I think that a lot of times the reason why we speak to or handle and treat other people poorly or badly is because that's how we internally treat ourselves. So
Yeah.
oftentimes when you see people that are either mean or snippy, or it's always something that's going on within them that's making
Yeah.
them respond that way.
It nearly always comes from a place of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, one thing I've really learned is that when you do stuff for yourself and do things to make you happy and learn to love yourself, you literally make everyone else around you so much happier, and you have so much love inside you, and you just have more love to give. It like overflows. It's incredible. And yeah, so I basically love my clients into submission.
And that's good
And
because sometimes what people really need is love. And that's
yeah,
the only way they learn to love themselves, either by being hurt to the point to where they seclude and begin to work on themselves, or they are loved into a place to where they realize, no,
yes,
I am important. My experiences are worthy. I just need to learn how to handle what I feel when I feel it.
yes. And that's why the WhatsApp support part of the coaching is so important, because it's just always there. It's like having love in your pocket, just to bring it
Mm-hmm.
out whenever you want, to celebrate you, to cheer you on, to encourage you, to kick you up the bum when you need it.
Right, because love is both
Yeah,
embracing and correcting.
yes, absolutely. And yeah, so that is just turning my pain into my purpose and my passion, and just try to start helping to change the world one little bit at a time, to let
So,
people know that.
what was the most challenging thing, and what did you learn when trying to turn that pain into purpose? Like, how did you come to that um, thought process?
I think the most challenging thing was overcoming fear.
Hmm.
The fear of eating, the amount of times I sat in front of a bowl of porridge crying my eyes out, I can't eat this, I can't eat, I can't eat, it's too scary. um, and I don't know why, something just came across me, and I realized that I was literally scared all the time anyway. So I might as well just eat the food and be scared of that than just be scared of living anyway. And when I started to do that, I discovered that when you turn and face the fear, it becomes courage. And you can literally do anything, because fear is actually just a feeling, and it
Hmm.
doesn't hurt you. It can't hurt you.
Not the fear itself. Even when you start walking things out, you most times realize that what it was that you was afraid of or scared of, it really wasn't a reality of something that could happen. Of course, there's anything can happen. There's always possibilities, but normally that percent of fear is like 1% of the reality of what
Yeah,
will actually take place.
yeah. It's like when I ate the porridge, nothing bad happened. I didn't
Right.
die.
Right. Sometimes the struggle itself is overcoming that fear, and finding purpose is hard because really to find your purpose, to really channel that, you really have to go in and do that work. And it's
Yes,
hard to face yourself. It's hard to deal with emotions and figure out, okay, how do I handle this, or where do these feelings go? But I feel like and I was just talking about this the other day, a lot of times when we have an emotional response and we don't cry it out, work it out, allow it to process, it grabs a hold of your soul, and it kind of puts
yes,
your soul in a like a squeegee type of thing, because it will encompass everything that you are and then begin to control your life, all because you're not processing it.
absolutely, 100%. Your body will just store that trauma, and you
Yeah.
have to let it out to be free. And that's what I didn't do for so many years. I didn't even cry for over 30 years.
Mm. So how was it when you first started to cry? Like the first time you really had an emotional response, was it when your dad passed?
No,
You didn't cry then either?
no.
Okay, so when was your first real good cry?
When I reached out for help,
And how did that feel to like really express that it has to be a ball of emotions if you hadn't cried in so long.
yeah, absolutely exhausting. Afterwards, I was like, why do people cry? It makes your eyes hurt.
It definitely makes you tired. You be sleepy
Yeah.
like you just worked out.
Yeah, I was absolutely exhausted. And then it was just like, I don't know, somebody turned on the tap and I just cried every day. Sometimes I didn't even know why. And I just kept on crying and crying. And my coach was just like, just if you want to
Let
cry,
it out.
cry.
Hmm.
Don't hold it in, just let it out. Um, and I'm actually quite an emotional person now. Cry quite easily. My friend was teasing me at the cinema the other day because I was crying.
And if they only knew how much you did not cry before, then they would be hugging you and happy that you're crying. Look,
Yeah.
I kind of identify with that because um for a long time my mom tried to kill me when I was 17. I went to the army and just I experienced a lot of things, but I don't know if I felt everything that I experienced deeply. And then as I got older, especially after having children, I became this emotional ball and I just cry for no reason, be watching movies like, oh my God. And then my kids be like, why are you crying? Like it was not even that type of movie. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But it's
It's
definitely
insane.
a great feeling to be able to cry and express those emotions and be able to because it's cleansing. I don't know what type of cleansing
It is.
but it is definitely cleansing. So I can imagine you crying a lot because you had all that built up cry
Yeah.
inside you.
And then I got anger, which I'd never really felt particularly before. And I didn't know what to do with that. And
So what did you do with your anger?
I went to the beach and threw stones in the sea and screamed at the stones as I threw them in the sea.
Did it help?
Yes, it did. And then I cried again.
Nothing like a good cry. Listen, I
um,
always try to tell people never be ashamed to cry. I mean, you might not want to
yeah,
cry in front of everybody or all the time in front of other people because then some people see it as a weakness, but it's really a strength because there's a lot of
it is
people
a
that
struggle.
don't know how to cry.
I've got so much more respect and love from the people around me since I showed vulnerability.
Hmm.
When I always thought I had to just act like I was strong and have everything together. But it's not true at all. And
I'm
the
so
other
proud
thing,
of you.
thank you, thank you. The other thing I never realized is that when you don't allow yourself to feel the negative emotions, you don't really feel the positive ones either. And wow, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They
The negative
really,
emotion.
really
I don't
are.
A lot of people say that you have to experience bad to enjoy the good, and I don't necessarily believe that, but it doesn't mean that you should not process things that happen because negative
Yeah,
things may happen, but that doesn't mean that it has to beat you down in order for you to rise again. It's just a part of life. So the negative and positive literally go together.
yes, they do. They do, absolutely.
So if there was something a piece of advice, a word of encouragement that you could give to your listeners about your story and your struggle and what they can do to help themselves or get to a better place of being vulnerable, what would that advice be?
That it doesn't matter how long you've been struggling, it's never, ever, ever too late. I went for over 40 years and you can still have an incredible future and lead an incredible life. That, however terrifying the thought of trying to recover and show vulnerability and reaching out appears, the reality is that it is just incredible, and being free is the best feeling ever. And just reach out for help. People love to help, and they will. Just reach out, and you can have an incredible future, and you can be free, and you can be really happy.
So what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom means to me knowing that I am good enough, knowing that I can talk in a conversation and not feel like I'm unworthy, knowing that if I feel hungry, I can go and eat, and I can eat 3 donuts if I want, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I can eat 1 apple if I want, and that's also fine, because I can just eat whatever I want, and my body will know what's right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to live by any form of diet culture at all, and that is incredibly freeing. I can move my body because I want to, not because I need to punish it. And just being able to do things to make myself happy and not try and please other people pleases other people.
Right. Well, let me tell you something. It is amazing to hear that, one, you recognize that there was an issue with your eating and that you were willing to seek recovery and seek help, because a lot of people, even when it comes to being vulnerable, a lot of people need to seek help with learning how to be vulnerable. And it's hard because you have to be vulnerable to learn
It
how
is
to be a
hard.
better person, to learn how to be a better mother, to learn how to be a better friend, and to learn how to be better for yourself. So
Yes.
I honor your vulnerability, and I just, it's amazing because, one, I never even fathomed that exercising too much and not eating a regular diet could even be a disorder. Like, it just, that went way over my head at some point in life. Because when I think about food or food-based disorders, it's always people that are overweight or people that throw up and make themselves vomit all the time or things like that. But I never once considered, especially in the society and the culture that we have today, that over exercising was a thing. So I thank you for bringing awareness to this, because there are some people out there right now that think that if they're not in the gym and they, life sucks, and they're beating themselves up over things that, it's not even that serious. And it's that serious to them because they're in that
Yes.
mind space, but they don't realize that they're struggling with a disorder that is mentally making them feel bad about not working out, about not being this type of shape and things like that. So
It's okay to rest.
I appreciate you for bringing awareness, because you've definitely taught me some things today and let me know that there may be people that I can support that might not even know they need the type of support to say it's okay. It's okay.
Oh, thank you. That's incredible. That's just amazing.
So I just want to let all of our listeners know, and everybody that will see this know, that it's okay. It's okay to rest. It's okay to feel. It's okay to love, and it is even okay to heal, because life will be what you make it, but we have to make it the best for us.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what anybody says or anything like that. It's a matter of how you see yourself. And I really hope that you see the beauty in yourself and not the things that could be wrong. Of course, we're all flawed to some extent, but your flaws are your perfection. It's what makes you you. It's what makes you an individual. We didn't need 2 little Julias. We didn't. But the thing is that society makes us think that we should all be alike, and we're all designed to be different. If God needed all of us to be the same, he would have dang on made clones, and or robots would have been the thing and not humans. So be willing to be yourself, embrace your vulnerability, and just love, love, love who God created you to be.
Yes, 100%. That is fantastic. Thank you.
Julia, please give us a way to follow you online and to get the coaching that they need.
Oh, just go on Instagram at Julia Trehane, which is Trehane is Trehane. So yeah, at Julia Trehane, and I'm there, and I would love to see as many people as possible because we can change the world and we can be free. And yeah, it's just so worth it. And thank you so much for letting me come on and share this.
I appreciate you. I'm not even kidding you because they're in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is ridiculous with the way that people view themselves and try to be so perfect physically. And
Yeah.
oftentimes they're not doing any mental work, anything else to make themselves better, but they're so focused on their physical appearance that it really diminishes who they are as people because it's so much more than your physical appearance.
Yeah, and we are all meant to be different. I mean, like dogs, we don't
Mhm.
expect a Chihuahua and a Great Dane to be the same.
Right. And,
They
and
look
and a
the
Great
same.
Dane should not want to go and get a Chihuahua body because the Chihuahua
No.
body is not even the mental capacity of what a Great Dane does and what a Chihuahua does. It's two different things.
Yeah. But people were also very different. So we don't need to try and fit into some standards because our beauty is in our differences.
Yes. It's what makes us an individual.
Yeah.
All right, Julia. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.